Now, my next guests, let's face it, they are superstars. They've sold out stadiums all around the world. They've performed more times at Madison Square Garden than the boss, Bruce Springsteen. They've got multiple gold, platinum, double platinum records, sold tens of millions of DVDs, CDs, VHS too, if you know what they are, and they've won multiple awards. They're rock stars, but without the rock and roll lifestyle, because their target audience are the kids. It's, of course, the Wiggles.
Hot potato, hot potato. Hot potato, hot potato. Hot potato, hot potato. Potato, 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 potato.
Yeah, you can't not sing along or dance along to that, can you? Well, there's a new doco about the Wiggles called, of course, Hot Potato, and it details the rise and rise, but it doesn't shy away from the challenges or the controversies either, because there have been a few of those over the past 30 years. But this is very exciting. The original Wiggles, Greg, Anthony, Murray and Jeff are with me in the studio now. Fellas, welcome to Afternoons.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And instantly when we play that song, you guys do the actions. It's just natural.
You can't help it. Yeah.
Yes. And Jeff, you're awake. I know that you're probably over that, but you're here, you're awake with us. Well done on the doco. It's really honest portrayal, but it's just a great detailing of the success as well as the challenges.
Yeah, I think it's a really honest story, and it's interesting for us to see too, because there's things you forget, and to see it all in sort of a line, and lots of pictures of us when we were young and skinny.
The photos are brilliant. Where did all these photos come from? Were they from you, Jeff?
Well, in the year 1990, I decided I thought I'd live a fairly interesting life up till then, like playing in the Cockroaches. So I thought it would be a good way to document my life in a photo diary.
Oh, wow.
And looking back I thought I'd remember things better, but you look back and you think, where was that taken? Who is that? It's like, but it's great to be able to put these in the documentary, and it is a great trip down memory lane for us.
Yeah, it really is. Well, it's a great trip for you guys and for us as the fans and the many generations of fans, because I love the way that the doco details that. And I think, Murray, there was one scene where when one of the new iterations of the Wiggles, you went to one of the concerts and you walked through the crowd.
Yeah, it was funny. I went to watch the show, and I walked through the crowd, and there was noise and hubbub, and I realised it was all the parents saying, "Look, it's Murray, and all the kids going, "Who's Murray?"
Who's Murray?
Which I thought was really great. I really love, one of the things I love about the Wiggles story is that it's continuing. There's a future, and it's still been successful, and that there's different people in the skivvies, but they still connect with children because the philosophies remain the same.
Yeah, it has. And at the heart of it all, because I know you're all trained in education, and I think that comes through, Anthony, too, that you know what you're talking about. You're not telling the kids to do stuff in the songs, you're asking them to. It's challenges almost.
Yeah, we really owe a lot of our success with communicating with children to Institute of Early Childhood Studies in Waverley and then at Macquarie University. So without that, we wouldn't be who we are. They taught us the skills of communicating with children from a developmental approach. So, 2-year-old, their world is this, so we try and cater for that, or a 3-year-old. It's really guided us the whole time, and it's why you can do a 10,000 arena, and hopefully each child thinks that you're talking just to them.
Yes.
So it's given us the tools to be able to take a big audience and make them feel very intimate.
And you kind of broke the rules in the sense that the focus groups and, the ABC, God love them, turned you down, which is like, hello, that's like saying no to the Beatles. But, you've broken the rules, as it were, Greg, because you don't sort of follow any rules. You just did what felt right.
Well, yeah, look, I think the important thing is that we followed the rules of early childhood, and that's why it worked. And we stayed true to that.
Yeah, not the rules of marketing.
Yeah, correct. And what I think, sometimes people have a perception of what they think children will like, and often that's not the case because they're approaching it from an adult perspective. So like Anthony said, with everything we did, we always came back to what is in it for the child and what is going to be good for them about it. And so when it came to doing TV, we really had to step away from what other people were telling us we should do and just say, well, look, sorry, but this is what we really think is going to connect. And I think time tells, 30 years down the track, the new Wiggles are still holding true to that philosophy and doing really well.
And Dorothy the dinosaur is still with us because originally you were told to ditch Dorothy.
We were, and it was the moment, I think, the line in the sand where we went, this is not right, So
We know Dorothy works.
Yeah, and we kind of know what we're doing, and,
Yeah.
and as Greg said, it's not about what works in a producer's mind; it's what works for children.
Yeah, which is true. And the kids across the generations. And I love that when you had your original, the OG Wiggles concerts and the performances, which was last year, wasn't it? When it was a massive sellout and you had the crowds of parents who were singing along with their kids and their kids. It must be lovely to know you touched just across those generations.
Yeah, and we get a lot of young adults saying to us, you were such a huge part of our childhood, and they like to look back at that innocent time when they were a bit more carefree, and the Wiggles, were the soundtrack to that. And we've heard stories from people whose childhoods weren't that great, and they said the bright beacon in their early life was the Wiggles, and that's a huge honour to have taken that role.
Those shows were so wild, though. There was a young woman held up a sign, Jeff, if you sign my arm, I'll get a tattoo made of it.
Really?
And we were like, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And she really wanted
Pressure, Jeff.
I signed it.
You
Signed
did?
it.
And she did get the tattoo.
Wow. That's a
dedication.
hardcore
Dedication.
fan.
Yeah.
That's rock and roll. This is it, though. But you did live the rock and roll lifestyle in that you were touring, you were on the road, relentless, and that's a lot of the reason why it put a lot of pressure on you.
Like elements of the rock and roll lifestyle in the US was like we had like 4 tour buses and semi-trailers as well. So that was that element, but the other side was the grounding in communicating with the children. That was that kept us grounded.
And looking out in the audience and seeing Hollywood legends who were coming along and bringing their kids. You detailed that, which I was surprised by.
I remember one show, there was Jerry Seinfeld, Ricky Lake, remember Ricky Lake?
Yes.
Vanessa Redgrave's sister, Lynn Redgrave, Chris Rock,
Joey Fatone.
Joey Fatone from NSYNC.
All in the one show.
Oh, no, that
I was gonna say,
in the
wow.
one show, Chris Rock was there.
All the celebrities couldn't fit into the one show.
Wow.
It was quite amazing.
Because to have the success, the level of success and the continuing success, but when you really had that breakthrough, like the American market is a tough nut to crack. And the fact that you did with such phenomenal success, even with the Macy's Thanksgiving Day
Yeah,
Parade.
we did 3 Macy's Parade, and there was a young man with us there from Australia named Steve Irwin, and we were sharing the experience of being popular in
You're
in
riding
America.
a similar wave.
Yeah, and we were always great mates with Steve, and we worked with him on the Wiggly Safari, which was great. They were good times.
Yeah. And I do like the fact that the doco doesn't shy away from the challenges because it hasn't all been plain sailing along the years. And you were very upfront about the controversies with Sam coming in and then the transition out. And when Emma Wiggle came on board, that it was quite a lot of backlash to a new Wiggle and the new faces. How important was it to be true to both the ups and the downs?
Yeah, I think you've definitely got to acknowledge everything that's happened throughout the career. And, for such a long time, the Wiggles have enjoyed such positive things and the overall majority has been positive. But look, we're all humans, and I think that's the other side of it too, that we don't shy away from showing that personal side of our stories. We're just like everybody. We have ups and downs, we have challenges, we have a lot of good times, and I think that's the good times, thankfully for us, has been connecting children to their childhoods through great positive music. And I think that is captured so well in the doco, all of those highs and lows, and it ends on a really euphoric note, and I think that's the main thing to take away from it.
With the controversies too, I remember when something comes out in the media and it's not the truth of you. I remember reading someone said, don't complain, don't explain, and if you're true, you're true. So I've always been able to sleep at night with decisions that we've made or haven't made or whatever. And I think that, we're pretty true to each other and true to what we've done. But you're right about the backlash when Emma joined. But, again, you don't take social media and
Well,
do a
thankfully,
knee-jerk
social media
reaction.
wasn't really a big thing when you
No,
first
it was.
started.
Yeah, in fact, that's a funny thing, Deb. When we started, we would go to a party. We were doing parties and men would look at us in a strange way because men and early childhood were not put together.
Of course.
So we were preschool teachers, but even then it was unknown to have men in the preschool. So do you remember a couple of times in the eastern suburbs we were doing parties and
People would look a bit
people would make,
sideways glance.
or they'd also make, really inappropriate jokes about us, what we were doing,
Wow.
and,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think times have changed with that, which is great. You know, it's much more accepted that men can take nurturing roles, and you know now they're talking about giving men more paid parental leave and all that sort of thing. And even though I don't think we necessarily pioneered that, but I think we did have an effect on changing the way people.
And also,
viewed
Mario,
that.
I remember a lot of feedback was that you guys, not what you call what we did dancing, but say
Wiggling.
men, yeah, wiggling. Like we got a lot of good feedback that from mums and dads saying, "Oh, it's so good to see men." You know, if we call it dancing.
Well, I remember when I was teaching in preschool, one of the boys said to me, we were doing some dancing, and he said, "Boys don't dance." And I said, "Well, I'm a boy and I'm dancing," and it was like. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I think that might.
So
might have had an
trailblazers
effect.
and pioneers. And the whole thing of you can't be what you can't see, and that's what you guys were. You were there visually pushing this.
And we're seeing that now with the new lineup of the Wiggles, you know, with Sahai there, you know, she's African-Australian.
She can dance.
Well, she can dance, yeah. But, you know, we're seeing a lot of African-Australian people, and they're saying, and actually your producer said to Jeff, you know, that she and her cousin couldn't agree on stuff
Yeah,
much.
she's
but
from
but,
South Korea, and absolutely.
yeah,
you
but
would.
they saw Jeff and they saw themselves represented on the screen, and I think that's really important for everyone, not just children.
The funny thing about that, these days you go representation and you know what it is. But in the early days, we were just mates, and we didn't know that we were like Jeff was representing.
I didn't give much thought to it, but on the odd occasion, I'd have relatives, you know, on the other side of the world saying, "What a great thing it is that I'm doing what I'm doing." But it was never in my mind that I was doing.
Not deliberate.
Representing.
You were just doing it.
And
Yeah.
it came home to me years ago. I've told this story 100 times, but it's true. I was at the chicken shop in Randwick, and Chinese Australian fella said, "Listen, can you say to Jeff, the whole of the Asian Australians love that he's on television and representing us?" And this was really early, and I do not understand because Jeff was just Jeff to us, but it really did. Yeah, you can't be what you can't see.
So that means a lot to us.
Yeah, definitely. And I love the fact too that, you know, obviously open about the challenges, open about the health struggles which you've all faced. And I mean, you're the only one who hasn't had open heart surgery, Anthony. Yeah. But it's like, and the fact that, Greg, after all that you went through, and the fact that, you know, you were clinically dead on stage, which is just shocking, and we're so grateful the work that you've been doing, trying to help along the way with ensuring that people can get access to the heart starters, which is terrific. But you all got on stage again and were able to do that one more performance.
I think that was really important. I don't know about Greg's position, but I know for us it was, because, you know, that last performance had been the one where Greg had his cardiac arrest, and you know, that was obviously terrible for him, but you know, it was pretty bad for us too. And to be able to come back and say, look, you know, he's healthy and he's going really well, and you know, we're all back together, was really lovely.
And we've been very proud of Greg for the education he's doing
phenomenal.
about what are they AEDs, which what does that mean?
Automated external defibrillator.
Yeah, so defibrillators, getting them in, and he's made it a game. You know, see if you can find a defibrillator, and educating people on that. And I'll tell you a funny little anecdote about the tour we're about to do when Greg came back. So he said, we need a sponsor, and Jeff and I, with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, said, funeral directors. And Greg, being positive, said, we got the sponsors who were the
defibrillators. Yeah,
the defibrillators.
Yeah, we did indeed.
And who were they? Were they?
Stryker, yeah, they manufactured the one that saved my life.
Yeah.
And so it was bloody great, mate. Yeah.
It's so good. Well, look, you're absolute pioneers, and I'm so pleased that you are still going as strong as you are. And Anthony, you're still out there doing the do every day.
I'm loving it, mate. We call them the 8 now, the grade 8. And but they all love the OGs, and the OGs coming whenever Greg, Murray or Jeff come along, you know, Sahai, Lucia, all the guys, they get a bit starstruck. It's nice to see.
Well, I haven't seen more starstruck people in this 2GB studio, I can tell you. Everyone's very excited that you're here, and it's great to have you. And the doco's wonderful. It's called Hot Potato, The Story of the Wiggles. It's on Prime Video from tomorrow, and it's definitely a watch. It's a really beautiful story of the way the Wiggles have came into being and the success which keeps on going to this day. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
The world's #1 preschool band.
They're like the Beatles for toddlers.
It's emotional to think about the whole cycle of the Wiggles.
The group has revealed that 3 of its members will be replaced.
It was a really rough time.
We were wondering, what are people going to think?
This was going to revolutionise the Wiggles.
Murray, there was one scene where when one of the new iterations of the Wiggles, you went to one of the concerts and you walked through the crowd.
Yeah, it was funny. I went to watch the show and I walked through the crowd and there was, noise and hubbub, and I realised it was all the parents saying, "Look, it's Murray, and all the kids going, "Who's Murray?"
Who's Murray?
Which I thought was really great. I really love, one of the things I love about the Wiggles story is that it's continuing. There's a future and it's still been successful, and, that there's different people in the skivvies, but it's they still connect with children because the philosophies remain the same.
Yeah. And Anthony, you're still out there doing the do every day.
I'm loving it, mate. We call them the 8 now, the grade 8. And, but they all love the OGs, and the OGs come and whenever Greg, Murray or Jeff come along, so hi, all the guys, they get a bit starstruck. It's nice.
Of course. Well, I haven't seen more starstruck people in this 2GB studio, I can tell you. Everyone's very excited that you're here, and it's great to have you. And the doco's wonderful. It's called Hot Potato, The Story of the Wiggles. It's on Prime Video from tomorrow, and it's definitely a watch. It's a really beautiful story of the way the Wiggles have came into being and the success which keeps on going to this day.
The world's #1 preschool band.
They're like the Beatles for toddlers.
It's emotional to think about the whole cycle of the Wiggles.
The group has revealed that 3 of its members will be replaced.
It was a really rough time.
We were wondering, what are people going to think?
This was going to revolutionise the Wiggles.